Hey, human being, do you think you might have some generational trauma? Do you think maybe your families have some secrets that they've kept? Yeah, me too, because we're human. And what better way to reflect on that than through art, right? And the world premiere play of Tin Church, that has been written and directed by the marvelous Robin Parrish, is currently debuting here in New York, being presented by Off the Wall Productions and presented at the Chain Theater. Tin Church is an unsettling Southern Gothic exploration of that generational trauma and the secrets families keep. It is playing October 23rd through November 23rd at the Chain Theater in New York City on 36th Street, and tickets can be purchased at InsideOffTheWall.com. That's InsideOffTheWall.com. But don't just buy them at full price, because you know what, Creative Risk listeners, you get to use code TA24 for 50% off. I'm seeing the show super soon. I'm really stoked, and you should too. InsideOffTheWall.com, Tin Church, October 23rd through November 23rd.
First off, everyone needs to listen to your podcast. I think you guys are probably my most favorite industry podcast out there, because you guys really teach actors how to actually be entrepreneurs, how to actually market themselves. So I also do feel like every actor should think of themselves as a business person.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Wherever you are in the world. Joshua here. Without Mike. Without Mike for this one, y'all. Mike will not be part of today's episode because he has quit. No, he's currently in rehearsals for a show he's doing at Gulf Shore Playhouse, doing Anything Goes, and there's just a lot on his plate, and always scheduling's a pain in the butt. So this is our first episode where it's just one of us, and you got the good one. We know that. We know that I'm the good one. We got the good one today, folks. But also, this episode topic is one that I was really interested in personally. Not that Mike's not interested in it, but today's episode is all around specifically considering raising a family as an artist. And because we of course look at so many facets of what it means to be an artist, and more specifically how to do that sustainably, this is an important topic, right? Because at some point the question comes up, even if the answer is, oh no, that is not something that I'm going to do. The answer undoubtedly comes up at some point in our lives. Is this something I would like to do? And the guests we have today are so uniquely, wonderfully diverse, and have either posed that question and made the decision, or are in the midst of posing that question. So I'm excited to share our conversations together, and I'm gonna kind of get right to it, because in typical Creative Risk fashion, convos ran long, so not too much preamble for me, except to say that I talk about my niece Maddie in every one of the interviews. I say that because I'm obsessed with her. My own biological clock is ticking. Sorry, I got a text message from Mike as I was saying that. Anyway, I'm obsessed with her, and so I sort of live vicariously through her mom and dad, Michael's sister and brother-in-law, Anna and Bill. She's my surrogate child as far as I'm concerned. No, but it's brought up a lot of thoughts, and questions about what it means and the sacrifice that we have to go to start a family. And before we get right to it, of course, please make sure that you hit that notification button on whatever the podcast app it is that you might be listening to, or subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already done so. And of course, please leave us a review. It helps the cast a bunch, and we like to read them. So please do that. Please take those 4 minutes to tell us. We'll read them all, no matter the good ones, the bad ones, the in-between ones. We're going to kick off this episode with Brooke Jacob. Brooke is a great person, a great performer. I met her not too long ago, honestly, when we were doing Tootsie at North Shore Music Theater. She played Sandy, so we spent a lot of time together. She's just absolutely hilarious, and her kids were around. I got to meet Huckleberry and Shep, and her husband was doing a show in Boston, not too far from where we were in Beverly, Massachusetts. So they were sort of coordinating the kids all summer, which was super interesting to me, and I knew that I wanted her to be on this. Brooke is a mom, actor, and theater teacher. She lives in New York City with her husband, KJ Hippensteel, and her two sons, Huck and Shep, and her third baby, Kobe the dog. Brooke has performed regionally across the country. Some favorites include Tootsie at North Shore and Theater by the Sea, School of Rock at Virginia Musical Theater, Tommy at West Virginia Public Theater, Shout, the Marriott Theater, Beehive at Alabama Shakespeare. She's a grammar school drama teacher at a private school now in New York City, which certainly comes up in this conversation. So without further ado, Brooke Jacob. This is A-okay.
No, we don't need to. But because I think, hold on, my timer's going off. This is telling me I need to be here right now. Well, it's late. No, I actually think it's impressive because it's like maybe you're more present. You're probably just more present in your life. I'm like feeling, I have like the anxiety, like I need to reply, and then it's sitting there and it's like causing me anxiety. And like, then I'll like open it and then I'll like mark as unread so that I can be like, no, get back to this. Oh, never mind. I'll just do it right now. Like, I just want it I just like want it done. And you're obviously just being like, no, I'm doing what I'm doing.
I just literally can't. And then part of it is then when I finish something that I'm doing, and if I've received messages, I can't. Yes, I have to set aside time. Like, so if you were to look at because I was just building my schedule for the day after this.
Yeah.
And I do work cycles. So like I'll do, I'm 8 minutes of prepping for this show, 9 minutes of working on the podcast, 11. This is how I work. I cycle through things.
Wait, but you do such like, you'll do like an odd number. You'll say 11 because that would cause my OCD some real issues.
No, the way that like, it's like an emotional, it's like an intuitive, like, okay, what is that priority? Like how much time? I'll even do like 8 minutes and 30 seconds. I know, odd. So I'll separate texts and emails and social, like I'll separate. That's when I don't think of texting as a real-time thing.
It's like, thank you so much, love. Wait, now one more. Might I have a straw, my love?
Straw.
Thank you. My teeth, I can't drink coffee.
But let me also say this, like it genuinely for some people like get like, as you could imagine, get quite frustrated or upset. And I don't mean for that to be the case. I really don't. It's just the way that I unfortunately
love you.
Move through, and I'm simply proud of myself for saying, but it's LOL at you being like, well, I didn't realize it was gonna be that bad.
Wait, no, but I find, but just so you know, I know that I'm now interviewing you for the show. Welcome to my show.
Yeah.
I'm always obsessed with people's systems. Like, how do you get stuff done? So when you talk about that, like, I like want to know about that. Like, I like to know how people wake up, like how they function. What do you do first? Like, how do you plan your day? Because I'm such a, like, when you say your list, like I'm like list upon list upon list. I don't know if I like follow the list, but I'm like making lists all day. So that yours would be to the second is like fascinating to me. And the thing is, like, I made my list today, but then I was obviously late because like I didn't really account in how long it will take like to shower and be here and like set up.
Sure.
Yeah,
no, of course. No. Well, listen, we're always doing too much. And it's funny. I was just with at my alma mater teaching this. We're bringing the podcast is an offshoot of the work that we do. And the final session, Brooke, of the 10 sessions after representation, self-producing, relationship was workflow. It was talking to these seniors about time management and prioritization and organization and capture systems for ideas. And, it's like stuff that like we don't think to talk about. But if I may, that is usually the biggest missing piece for most artists in their lives. Not you. I'm saying like most artists.
So hard.
Do you notice what I'm wearing right now?
Is that your Jeff shirt?
It's my Jeff
Should I go
shirt.
get my little cowboy boots and my hairs and my things? I wore them yesterday. I wore them 2 days ago.
No, I specifically did wear. I love this. I love this black.
I actually wore my Sandy jumpsuit the other day to school. We had like a parent teacher thing, and everyone's like, "Look at that," and I was like, "Yes, yes."
She's an actrice.
Yes.
Well, listen, I really am stoked to sort of have you to talk about this because I got to experience in real time your abuse of Chef. No, I'm just kidding.
Hep and Chef, right?
Yeah,
what are their names,
Chef.
Joshua?
No, Shep and Huck. No, are you kidding me? These are. First of all, you have the best names of any children I've met in the last 6 months.
Thank
But
you.
actually,
The last day.
To tell us a little bit about Shep and Huckleberry, though. Just tell us a little bit about them.
Oh, I'm actually in their room right now, and Kobe, my first baby, my fur baby, is laying on
Exactly.
Sheppy's bed right now. They're in my room watching TV. We're like all over the place. So Huckleberry Magoo is about to be 10 in December. Oh my goodness. And Sheppy Pie Schmoopy Schmimp Schmanoozle Shoo Shoo Shooshka Booshka Poosh Poosh is 8. He has a lot of names. And they're in 3rd and 4th grade. They are the cutest little buggers, and yeah, they're just fun boys. I always thought I'd have girls or a girl. I always thought I'd have one girl. And if I had a kid, I definitely didn't think I'd have 2 because I'm an only child. We've talked about this, Joshua. And I did not think I'd have 2 boys so close in age or like any of this. That was not the plan. Like Shep
Like,
came, they're 18 months
twice.
apart. It's very sad. And I'm making do with what I have. Know what they're like, just the best.
Well, you know what I was thinking about with Kobe, your dog, Kobe actually is a beautiful dog. Like
he's
like,
gorgeous, like a little supermodel.
Stunning.
I know. Thank you.
But you, I was thinking about how he sort of is a third child.
Oh, 100. Yeah.
Like when you think about like your life structure and world and like how you're managing your time, do you think about Kobe the same way that you think about Shep and Huck?
Well, it's funny because like we like to play this game. Like I'll always be like, Huck, I love you so much. You're my favorite. Okay. And then I like walk over to Shep and I'm like, Shep, I don't want you to say anything, but you know you're my real favorite, right? And then I just like, wait a minute. And I just go back and forth. And then Huck's always like, you need to tell Kobe the truth because he's your real favorite, right? And I'm like, well, yes, but as long as we're clear, like, as long as you two know you're the same, I'm good. But yes, Kobe is, I know, little schmoop. He's my baby, and there's something precious about you. We have them they're just our little guys.
Now, wait, but Kobe came later.
Kobe's first. No, Kobe's first. That's why.
Oh, how old is Kobe?
12.
Wow.
Kobe will be 13 in January. And so, he taught me how to be a mommy.
Well, so how important was it for you and KJ? And we should say Brooke's husband, KJ, whose last name I don't know. I'm embarrassed.
Hippensteel.
Hippensteel.
Did you not know that he had this crazy, weird, long last name?
I did not.
Hippensteel.
What's that song? It's like a song.
H-I-P-P.
Oh, Step in Time. That's what makes it Hippensteel.
Hippensteel.
Yes. So KJ Hippensteel is also an actor.
Mm-hmm. Wait, I love that you say also because it's always him first and like, oh, your wife? Oh, you have a wife? Oh, she's also an actress? Oh, cute. So let's do it this way. Her husband is also
an actor.
Yes, he's also an actor. Oh, is he? Mm.
Well, so when you and KJ sort of convened, how important was it for you to consider starting a family? This is
not even at all. We were babies. He was 23, I was 27. We were definitely not like thinking like that. We met on a cruise ship, and like after we like kissed the producer, we like love this because we call her our fairy godmother now because she's like why we have kids. she came over to me and she's like, just so you know, ship flings are just ship flings. And we were like, great, thank you. And we were not like talking about kids or anything like that. And I don't think, and then actually it's funny because that we're bringing it back to Kobe, because, hi, Kobe, just watching me. I remember distinctly, so I'm trying to think. So Kobe's 12 and a half and Huck is going to be 10. So, you know, we were like, we have our life, we have our baby, we're good. And we'd had friends that were starting to, that either had like like one of my best friends, like had just had a kid, or people were trying, or, you know, and I was like, should we, like, is this something we think that we want to do? And I was like, cause I feel good. Like we have Kobe, like I don't feel like I have to. And he was like, do you feel like maybe we should just like see, and we'll like set a date to say like at this age, like, well, like, let's just see if it would work. And I was like, that's fine, I guess. I don't even know if, I mean, like, I'm good if like we have our Kobe, we're parents. That's fine. And then we'd known a lot of our friends had a fertility struggles and taken a long time. And one of my best friends, it had been like a year of trying and then about to do IVF. So I was like, I guess like, I'm trying to think. So I'm going to be I'm going to say my age. Is that terrible? I'm going to be 44 in a week. And so I was like 35, 34 when I was, 30. And I was like, I guess like 35 is like an age when people should try if they want. I have no, like, I was just so naive about it. And to my surprise, the second he pulled in, it was like, boom, she's pregnant. Let's go. And I was like, oh my God, I'm really fertile. I didn't expect that, because I had known like and I now know, like, I do not take that for granted. That is not the story for everyone. And I kind of think actually that everything else in my life had been such a struggle. Like it's like career, and you put so much effort on that. And sometimes, like, I don't know if it's because I was like relaxed about it, that my body was like, okay. And because like, you know, with my theater career, it's like, I'm so tense about it. Like, just make it work. That was like, no, I don't know.
Well, and it's okay. So then how did having children ultimately shift your goals or priorities as an actor?
So I think I probably naively was like, it doesn't change it. Like nothing is going to change. And like, we'll just figure that out. And then so Huck and Shep are 18 months apart. So when Huck was like 11 months old, we had a little sexual miscommunication and got pregnant again. and then we lived in London for 2 years, because KJ was doing a show there. And so it was like everything just changed, where I was like, oh, I'm just mom mode. Like I wasn't even thinking career, and that was not on purpose. It just sort of like happened like that. And then the reality is, I don't know if I was thinking, oh, I consciously want to make a change. It was like, I don't exist anymore. No one knows who I am, because, well, not that they really were clamoring down my doors anyway, but, you know, and then you've disappeared for a second. You're like, hi, are you interested in me now? You haven't seen me in a bit. And I am a mom, and I'm not, you know, like it just felt really different. I think it's now that they're a little older, and I actually almost now I'm thinking more about them, because I don't know if this makes sense. Now that I am auditioning again, like I just wasn't for a minute by accident. And now that I consciously am, I do have to think about them more. But I think at the beginning, I was just naively like, I don't know, we'll figure it out. We'll just put them in a suitcase and figure it out.
Do you feel specifically as a woman that having children, not only, I mean, from the obvious of like getting pregnant and then needing to take that time, and then having the kids and then needing to take time, you know, how that obviously could be different from KJ Hippensteel's experience. But do you feel like perception wise that there's something that changes when you're a mom?
Yeah. So I think now I'm at the point where it's like, as they're older and I'm older, and I'm like, no, I will be playing moms. That's great. This is actually awesome. Like the roles, so many of my dream roles now line up with that, but 10 years ago they didn't. And so, you know, at 35, it was like, I'm not going in for mom roles. I'm just thinking of just different, whatever, quote, mom roles. I don't even know what that means, but yeah. I remember I was pregnant with Huck, and I hadn't said anything, and I was auditioning for a different agent. and I like had a tiny bump and I'm like trying to hide it. And I was so embarrassed and I didn't want to tell anybody, and, you know, just like things. And then I wouldn't really include it. I don't know. I just felt like it was totally different, but also just on top of it, I don't know if I'm answering this the right way. Like it is the body, like the body stuff it is completely different. What happens to a man and a woman, like KJ never stopped anything. And then I went from being like a person to just being like, oh my gosh, I'm like a homemaker. It's just crazy. Like I not a great one, but like I'm like, it's crazy. Like any decision he had to make, and because he was making the money as an actor, it was like, oh, you're making our money. And I'm just like this mom. I didn't expect that. And like my body completely changed. And yeah, like I feel like it's in the past 2 years is the first time that I'm starting to be like, oh, this is really weird. I'm becoming this new person. I'm never going to be Brooke before kids, but now I'm Brooke after. And I'm both. I've found the bits of who I used to be and who I am as a mom. And like, I'm like, I like that person. I think there was a moment when before kids, you're like, oh, I'm just selfish Brooke. I'm that person who just worries about myself. And then I was just mom Brooke. Like I was like, I'm just mom. I don't know. I'm nothing. I like can't figure out who I am. I'm just this mom. There's no remnants of who I was. And suddenly I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool, actually. Like Mom Brooke is always the most important one. And it was funny meeting you and being like, oh, you don't know me as Mom Brooke. Like I'm mom. But like being like, oh, but I actually am both. Like I am that thing. And now it does, like, it's the first time where it feels like both. I don't know if I answered that correctly at all. I'm sorry.
No, there's no right or wrong answer.
It was wrong.
We're ending this. How would you describe, like, what are some core differences between like pre-mom Brooke and post mom Brooke?
Just like very selfish, I think, in a lot of ways. But just because actors are, like, we just have to be, like, we're just constantly thinking about, you know, like, does that work for me? Like, I think, and I don't mean that really negatively, like, it's just every decision I made, like financially, obviously. Okay. So, oh, I want to do that gig. Oh, it doesn't pay much. That's fine. I'm going to quit my, you know, babysitting job right now and go do it. And it doesn't matter. And so, like, I have no idea if, like, is there an intro first? I should say, but like
there will be. Yeah.
I teach theater now full time. I'm a grammar school drama teacher. And so I don't know if you said this, but we met in the summer. We love each other. We fell in love. Okay. Now that decision to take this teaching job was 100% about them. It was the most unselfish decision I've ever made. And it terrified me and like made me cry making it. But when I was offered the possibility of like some stability and health insurance and things, and I was like, and I do love it. If you're listening from my school, I love it. And I do. I like love it and I'm great at it and it's great. But but it was very about my kids and about what I could give them. And like and it really threw me and still throws me when there's a thought of an audition that's would pay less than that and would take me away from my kids.
I've already pitched you 4 projects.
Oh my God, I love you.
I literally have, and Brooke's like,
no, but no,
no, but I get it. I get it.
It's not a no of like, I won't do it. It's like the line of what I would do. I have to take it into a different consideration. It's like, I will do things, but not things that feel like that's like, I'm not going to leave them for dumb stuff.
I just want to set up the fact, just to be clear, because we sort of rushed through it. Point that no, because I think this is actually a huge point that you, I think maybe this is your second year, I believe, actually, are now in your second year as a full-time drama teacher at seemingly a great school in New York City.
Yes, very fancy. With no teaching degree. I don't know how it would happen. How did this happen?
But I'm sure you were absolutely amazing with those kids.
Thank you.
And this was part of, just to be clear, a decision that came out of, you said, you know, I would argue that primarily financial, right? Like because up until that point, even pre that, we know that all we do is face periods of uncertainty.
Yeah.
in the gig. I often say we're in the business of losing our jobs. So how did you and KJ manage, your financial aspects of raising a family for so long up to that point? And if you don't mind my asking,
Yeah.
why did you take the job and not KJ?
Oh my God, I love that. Okay, that's it. Oh my gosh. Okay, keep me on track.
Okay.
So for KJ was in Book of Mormon when Huck was born. So we were getting that Book of Mormon money and thought shows run forever and like never end because that was the experience. So he did it for 5 years. And I was like, great, you can make the money and I'll just do what I do. And then I was like, oh, I do need to start working again. Also just because I need to do something financially that's not auditioning just so I can feel like I'm part of the, I don't know. And then I, on a whim one day, literally on a whim, was like, what if I tried to teach kids theater? And I like built a website because I do everything so backwards. I like built a website and it happened. And then like people signed up and I was like, oh my God, wait, are we allowed to swear on here? Oh, I was like, fuck, I need to like learn how to teach. And then I like did it and it grew and it became great, blah, blah, blah. Then this place where I had taught after school at, the opportunity came about. And I said to my friend, when she asked if I was interested, and I still had to go through an application and there were tons of applicants and I'm so lucky that I even got it. But I was like, well, what if I need to like leave for a show? And she said, this is where dreams come to die. She doesn't remember that she said that, but I was like, oh, cool. Okay. And I still was like, but I'm going to think about it. Oh, because what had happened at the time, the day that she sent me the text to say, would you possibly be interested? It was the day after the Tonys and KJ was in Some Like It Hot and they didn't win. And we thought, okay, so now we know it was not like we had a closing notice, but we said, so this isn't going to run forever. And now I'm a little panicked. And what does that mean for us? Because you don't have another thing. And I maybe do now because she said like, I could maybe have a thing that like is something stable. And so anyway, after like meditating and like thinking about it a lot, we decided to do it. But what is funny is that now, KJ just finished a summer job and right now he's currently working for my cousin doing like admin work and we're so lucky that he has that. But we've had some conversations where there was something that came up and that he would have to have left for like a month. But if he had left for the month, it would have meant fully losing that job. And I did get frustrated. Oh, he would have had to lose it with Craig because there's times like if he was leaving for 6 months and it would just be like, it just wouldn't have worked. He had just started. Right. And I was like, you would be giving that up. And that right now is a big deal. And we did have like tough conversations where I was like, that's not fair. If I'm like, I would leave mine for a big thing, like obviously like I want to still audition for big New York things or a big tour or a thing that you're like, I would say, fine, bye to the school. Right. Or I need a leave of absence or whatever it is. But like, you're going to leave this for like, a Christmas show or something. And like we don't have the financial power to do that. And so like, but for like 10 years, it kind of had been more about his career in that way. Like I don't know. So it was like one of those, I don't know if I'm making sense.
Well, you are. And one of the things
I'm not going to be the only one that makes those decisions because up until then he was kind of the one like working, bringing in the money. And I was like, no, because I could leave too. And like, I'm not. So I'm not we're not leaving unless it's something that we both are like, this makes sense. And for things that make sense, go do it. But like, not if if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense for either of us.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like he understood that.
Yeah.
Well, you said that he had a summer job, and while he had a summer job, you had a summer job because that's where we met when we were doing Tootsie. And interestingly enough, you were able to do this gig because it was off from school. And fascinatingly enough, when we were in Beverly, Massachusetts, KJ Hippensteel was in Boston trying out the Queen of Versailles. So you were 30 minutes apart from one another. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because at some point, excuse me.
Did you just hear Sheffy?
No,
did you hear Chef?
I called him Hap. Literally when I first met him, I was like, so it's Hap and Shep, right? Huck and Shep, Huckleberry and Shep.
Shepherd.
Excuse me. Shepherd
No,
and
you can say
Huckle-
Shep. I wasn't correcting you. I was putting it in your head, like how to remember it.
Franklin Shepherd Inc. They
Right.
they were with your dad for a good
Yeah.
portion of the summer.
Yeah.
However, at some point, both your parents were coming to see the show, which was its own thing that you were navigating, by the way, which we won't get into. But the boys came to stay with you for a little bit, and you and I were in this extended stay hotel
Oh my
housing
God.
with the meth tent in
With the meth tent.
the parking lot.
They were fun though. Fun time. They were a fun time.
But talk a little bit. I want you to talk a little bit about how you were juggling Franklin Shepherd Inc. over the course of the summer while you had this amazing opportunity and you were so good. Right before we started today, Michael said, "Who are you recording with?" And I said, "Brooke. Remember Sandy from Tootsie?" And he's like, "Oh my God, we loved her. She's amazing." Brooke really is.
Wait, was he there?
Yes, you didn't meet him?
No.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
No, it's true. You told me you had some friends out there and he was one of them?
Well, I might have had another set of friends, but
You have one friend.
and it's my partner. No,
Wait.
no. Yeah, so maybe
I didn't know that. I didn't meet him. Ugh.
Oh, well,
I've been
sorry.
listening to him and I'm a fan and I love
No,
that.
wait.
Okay.
That's Mike Labadia. Michael, my partner.
Oh, okay, great. We love them both then. Okay,
Yes,
Mike,
yes.
your partner was there.
Yes, no, Mike Labadia doesn't care about me. He wouldn't
true.
come to
Wait, we don't
support.
care about him. Okay. No, but I do.
He's actually doing for what it's worth. It's just a side note.
Wait, I liked your episode when it said you had a review that was just like Joshua.
Literally.
I almost wrote a new one, by the way. Then I just lost my I forgot, but I was going to just write another one that was just like, I don't know, some sort of silly thing. But then I was like, wait, then it will actually be, then it will like be on your page and I don't want to be an asshole and it just be like, okay.
No,
Sorry,
Mike
go on.
is
You're trying to do a podcast.
Mike is doing Anything Goes at Gulf Shore Playhouse right now, and he
nice.
doesn't do musicals. So he's like in a completely different world. He does not know what's going on. I love you, Mike. But anyway, so you had Shep and Huckleberry that you were sort of maneuvering throughout the summer. So just talk a little bit about what that setup was, somewhat to the end, and the value I want to of this, I believe, is just, I guess, what it takes, even in your moment of limiting how often you might be performing, when you have these opportunities that do work generally with the schedule, still what goes into juggling.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and I left out Kobe, who was also part of that.
He was there too.
Triumvirate. So talk about that.
So first of all, we're insanely lucky that we have grandparents that have just, my God, like made everything possible, and nothing, like we couldn't have done this without them. So from the point when the show ended, August something, to, I'm going to cut 6 months earlier, KJ was gone. There was a 6-month period where we had grandparents helping nonstop. So KJ was gone for 3 months doing a show from, what was that, March, April, May? So March, April, May, he was gone for 3 months. And we'd go back and forth, but we had grandparents that entire time. Maybe like, you want to leave, Chloe? Come on. Hold on, sorry. Go. Sorry. You can edit out this, but he needs, go.
Sorry, guys. That's Huckleberry.
That's, come here. Do you need, okay, he's going to stay. So we had 3 months with that happening where okay, he does want to leave. Okay, go, sweetie. I love you. Go. Bye. He's just standing at the door being weird. Okay, so we had grandparents for that. Then, the day, it was my first year as a drama teacher, and it ended on whatever day it ended was a Friday. I can't think. Whatever day it ended, literally the next day, I had to get to Rhode Island to start rehearsals for the Tootsie before you got there. So it was a 1-day turnover, which was crazy. And my kids were still in school because they go to a public school. I teach at a private school. So they had 2 more weeks, and grandparents were here. They were helping with them. Then when we were done with rehearsals, so I didn't want them to be there while I was rehearsing, and we were lucky enough to have so much help. They came up the second the show opened. I used my entire, and this is a luxury that I do not take for granted, which is that because I had this money from my teaching job, and this is my first year, so I didn't know that's how it worked. You get like a chunk paid in the summer at the beginning of the summer. So I was having that other income. I used pretty much my entire income from Theater by the Sea in North Shore to pay for different housings for them. So I left when my kids arrived, I left the actor housing and I got us a huge, awesome Airbnb for me, the kids, Kobe, and my dad for a couple weeks. Then they went to Cleveland for 2 weeks with my dad while we were finishing up, and I signed them up for some camps. I had a week off before we went back to North Shore, where I stayed with them for a week, got to be with them. And then when I went to North Shore, when we were rehearsing for those 2 weeks, they stayed in Cleveland for one of those weeks. Then they came and I used, again, the paycheck to get them an extra room at the extended stay. And
the kids?
Then the kids.
They were by themselves? Oh, no.
No, sorry. And then then they switched. My dad came and then my mom came. So then my dad left and my mom took over and my stepdad came. So we had they were there for 2 weeks or something. And I paid for another room. There was a suite at the extended stay. So I really broke even, but we were also whatever, you broke even, but had the best time ever. And it, some people pay for camps all summer. And then, yes, when we got to North Shore, which was just outside of Boston, KJ's show was in Boston and he would come up. Sorry, I can hear them in the background. So I'm losing my train of thought. That's my whole life though. And then he would come up he didn't come on Wednesdays because it was a 2-show day, but then on the other ones, he would just be with us and sleep over with us from, Sunday night till Tuesday morning, and then go back and do his, and then come back Thursday or Friday during the day.
I mean, I think the thing that I just want to lift up is I don't.
Sorry, that was so boring how I'm explaining it, but
but I'm sure no one tracked that. But here's the point about this. You not only was it the giant puzzle of how do we shuffle, and by the end, by the way, Brooke, I remember you saying okay, I got to get these kids out of the hotel, because remember part of it was
was a weird hotel.
It was a weird hotel, but when you were out doing shows and your mom was there trying to help, she's like, where do I go? What do I take them? They don't want, it's because then you basically have multiple parents and you're kind of trying to parent the parents, to help you. And, meanwhile you're trying to do your show. And you're saying, you're getting paid, but all that money is just going to basically making the scenario work because you love it so much. And so you're saying it's not that you're actively losing money given the circumstance, but it's not you're actively making money. And so what's so fascinating to me about that is just the full extent, again, of what it means to, in this moment where you're not saying, oh, I don't act anymore. You're saying in this moment, especially, I would argue, probably it sounds like for the next 8 years or so, maybe a little less, you are at a moment where your focus will continue to remain on, making sure that you and KJ are able to provide, AKA, it sounds like you like this gig, but that you're going to have to play this game of whack-a-mole until there could be a moment where you might be able to turn back and say, okay, am I at a place where I could go work at Beef and Boards Dinner Theater again for $620 a week and be happy doing that? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, okay, so I will tell you that I knew that it would be a tough transition back to teaching after doing, because that was a long gig. That was for a summer gig. It was 3 months. And I started back at school the day after Tootsie closed. Right. So that was crazy. And I had no time to just catch up. And I will say, at the end of week 2, I was just crying and every day and having a really tough time going, oh my gosh, is this because I missed the show, and you always miss a show when you're doing it. I thought, I don't know if I'll do this for 20 years. Now that I've settled in and I remember I actually do love it. And I love the stability of being home at night with my kids and doing bedtime and having
buying
weekends
things
with them. And not stressing as much about money. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, first it's, I mean, still a teacher salary, but
Sure.
like it's a salary. Like I never had that before ever. Like the
Yeah.
idea of like, I've never had a paycheck like that. Do you know what I mean? That you're like, oh, that comes again. Like it's not like a gig.
I don't have to figure out the next 2 weeks
that I can actually
Yeah.
budget, that we can go,
Yeah.
oh, like that is that,
Yes.
like I've never even used the words like budget.
Yeah.
Well, because we were either, I forgot the question. Is this forever? Oh, so I don't know. I have moments when I was like, and also, by the way, I listened to the headshot session, and I have new headshots that I'm doing in a month.
Oh, amazing.
And I'm so excited. And like, you know, there is the part of me that's like, look, I do want to audition again for things here. And I don't know what forever is, but I do know that I know that I can't give up. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to even say it out loud because I don't know what it is. I don't know, but I just know that like, I'm not willing to screw things up for them totally. I just don't even know what that means. Do you know what I mean? I'm not even like able to say it because I don't know. I'm just like, I just know that in the back of my mind is always like, just, you know, just always know, like you have these kids, like you just can't make totally selfish decisions. And when I say that, by the way, obviously leaving to do the show like is selfish, but like it also set them up for huge success. They had the best summer ever. They were like they were traveling. They got to go to beaches. They got to do things like when they visit us doing shows, it's so fun. The last time I had left them was I was doing a show in Virginia Beach, and they like sobbed leaving. They weren't there during the rehearsals, but they came for the performances, and like leaving, they were like, we love it here. And I was like, oh my God, like how cool is that they get to go to places and they do get these cool experiences. Anyway, my answer is I don't know what forever is. But I know that obviously their interest is always going to be the thing that like pulls me back and goes, okay, chill for a sec. Like you do have to make sure that this does work for them. And so there have been things like summer was no issue to me. I knew that my wonderful parents would have, like, I just knew. I was like, I don't even need to think about it. I don't even need to ask. We will figure that out. And then that particular thing in Virginia Beach, it was that Virginia Musical Theater. It's the best. They're only 3-week contracts. So I was like, it'll work. Like, it'll just be fine. There's stuff, if you look and you're like, this one, I don't know. Would that work for them? Like, yeah.
Well,
sorry.
like you're saying, you're like, no. Like you're saying, you have to weigh the pros and cons here of does something ultimately become worth it? And one theme, I don't quite know the order yet of how everyone's going to go.
Yeah.
But one theme that I've noticed, Brooke, in having these conversations is that there needs to be a willingness to figure it out. Meaning, there will be a ton of unknowns, and yet if there's a willingness to problem solve as things arise, and if there's a community of people willing to support and help along the way, that it is all the more feasible that having a family and continuing to pursue your life as an artist, and whatever that means. I mean, let's be clear. Yes, you're teaching, but your life is filled with creativity. I mean, it sounds like even with these kids that, you know, it's not like you're teaching algebra.
No,
you know?
And I mean, I'm teaching theater and I'm directing their plays, and like that's so fun. I just started writing a new 4th grade play that I think is like, it just like came to me one day in this like moment of inspiration. I was like, oh yeah, that is creative too.
And you have to know, like, no bullshit. You're not a normal mom. You're a cool mom. No, like you are a great, like, I've seen you with your kids, and you are so joyous and so creative even with them, and you treat them like little adults, and you're like, you know, like they're your friends, and it's kind of inspiring and wonderful to watch, because I would argue, I don't know, obviously, Brooke pre-mom, but all I know is like Brooke without kids, the Brooke that I first started to get to know, is the same Brooke that I see with her kids, in terms of you let all of your feelings fly in their truest form, and you are funny and smart and committed and interested and engaged, and as yeah, you hear
Do
them
you
in
hear
the
that?
back. Yeah,
I was like, there's no way he doesn't hear that, as you're just making me cry, being so sweet to me. And then he's like,
no. KJ's like tying them up. No, but I mean, really, like, I mean, I could only imagine like how much fun. And I was watching that. Actually, I'm thinking of that video. This is so funny. I was so
I just want to talk
glad.
to you for hours, and I know that like we have to like keep this on a time, and I just love you, and I'm just like, so excited.
No,
to be
well,
with
you
right
know, I
now.
feel the same. I would just go into
know.
Brooke's dressing room every day because
Oh,
anyway. But when you posted a video the other day, so there was that trend going around of cracking eggs on people's heads.
oh.
And when I saw that, I've now talked about my niece in every single one of these interviews because
Okay.
I'm obsessed with her. I'm literally obsessed with Maddie. And when I saw that trend, I sent the trend to her parents
Yeah.
on like the family thread, and I was like, I can't wait till like Maddie's old enough to do this to her.
Wait, how old
and
is she?
No one. 2.
Maybe give it a minute before you traumatize
Well,
her.
it's so funny you say that because no one responded. Literally, no one liked it. No one responded.
Right. Well,
to the thing.
we know. You know about me. I'm constantly messing up the group chat. So we'll go.
Oh yeah, wait. This is fun. This is funny. I
No,
have to say
on.
this.
No.
In the group chat of our Tootsie thread, you know, so there's a line in the show called "Where's the Bunny," which I actually don't. Where does that even? It was because there's like a dance sequence where like Ron, the director choreographer, was like teaching a step, and I guess "Where's the Bunny" is like a name that he comes up for like a step. Anyway, so the group thread was called "Where's the Bunny," and one day in between shows, Brooke sends a series of text messages to the group thread, beginning with like a bunny that was like on its last leg that she had found like on the side of a road, and she's holding the bunny, like cradling it in her arms as it's like taking its last breaths, and she's like, "Guys, I found the bunny." And then the next thread,
Wait, but no one even replied to that one. No one replied to "Guys, I found the bunny," and I thought like, oh, I found it. Look, we found the bunny.
Well,
Where's the bunny?
That's because I think moments later, Brooke, you then sent a video of the dead bunny, of the now dead bunny, in a trash can. And
wait, it wasn't dead yet. I was transporting it to Petco. It was still alive. I just was putting it in something, and it was a bucket I found.
And the cast, like people were like, trigger warning, like people were not pleased that
No,
Brooke
everyone
had
was
sent
mad
these
at me,
series
which I understood later, but I was just...
I guess I mean I see
Wait,
it.
the moral of the story was that Joshua just makes me laugh so hard because we now like it became a thing where I would just keep leaving group chats.
Oh yeah, because then like Brooke, because like people were like, Brooke, like you need to send a trigger warning, and it just said like Brooke Jacob left the chat, and then we added her back in. But can I just say, folks listening, you know, on this podcast that we are not into the trigger warning, so to speak. Meaning,
I
like,
thought you were saying, and we are pro bunnies. On this podcast.
But that's funny. That's funny. The podcast, the text was literally called "Where's the Bunny?" It's a line in the show, and Brooke found a dead bunny, near dead bunny, and then tried to nurse it. Well, here's why I'm on Brooke's side.
Literally, like breastfed the bunny. It was like
literally was nursing the bunny back to health. So A, like give her credit there, and B, that is funny that then you then proceeded to send a dead bunny like to the chat, and like that is really really funny. But of course, everyone's so sensitive. You know, no one can handle anything these days.
Oh my god, we just made each other laugh so hard. Wait, back to the egg thing though, because it actually goes back to the thing. And I just love you and thank you for even saying like that. How I talk to them, but there's a lot of people that would say like that. So when that egg trend happened, you know, people get upset and outraged about everything, but not in mine. But the viral videos of those people would be like, how dare you do that to your child? You will lose their trust. Oh, now your child will never trust you. I'm like, oh my God, shut up. And like, you're not, and according to those people also, like, you're not supposed to be sarcastic with your kids. And I'm like, are you kidding? So like the idea that like, I'm always like, like they have such a sense of humor though. And if you saw the video of the egg, Huck's first reaction was he started cracking up, and then he got mad and he was like, you know, of course, because like you should be mad, I pranked you. But I'm like, I am not so delicate with that, but I'm also like, we just like cuddle forever. We kiss nonstop.
Well, yeah,
We're
because
obsessed with each other,
ultimately
but
you
like,
love them.
I love to tease them. I love to like play jokes on them and be sarcastic and silly with them. And I just think that's,
Listen, I've been teaching for a long time. And various ages. I started as a teaching artist for younger kids, and then now I work with undergrad and grad kids. But I've been teaching all levels for a long time. And while I'm not a parent, one thing that I've learned in working with younger people is don't treat them like they're little kids. If you treat them with respect, and even young ones, you treat them a bit like equals, while also doing exactly what I know you do, giving them all the love. They know how much you love them, Brooke. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure you cry all the time when they leave you, and vice versa. I mean, they're big mama's boys. So, but if you treat them with that sort of same respect, like you would a friend, they actually, I've discovered, trust you even more.
yeah.
That they actually they know that actually kids have a good bullshit meter. Like they know when they're being. That's why it's hard doing children's theater. Those kids will let you know if they're not enjoying something. And so I'm just saying it because, like, it's not like you cracked an egg on their heads and then threw them to the ground. Who cares? No, I'm just kidding. You cracked I love that trend. And I do just think it's funny that no one responded. I'm sure that literally the mom was like, why are you talking about, cracking an egg on my 19-month-old's head? But in my mind, that's some genius parenting. Anyway, Brooke, I think the world of you. I really do. Thank you so much for
I love you so much.
for
And I'm sorry I
sharing so
talked
much.
forever and ever, and I don't even know what I said, but I just like miss you and want to talk to you forever.
Couldn't reach your mind, lashed out like you did last time. And just like before, I tried to be cool about.
Hey, are you looking for your next music obsession? Meet Joy and the Wildfire, the NYC band that's lighting up the scene with soulful, raw sounds. Born from the creative spirit of my friend Samantha Joy Perlman, Joy and the Wildfire brings a fresh edge to a familiar sound, crafting music that cuts through the noise and speaks directly to the heart. Their debut single, Tears in Brooklyn, dropped this past summer, and just honestly, when you thought it couldn't get any better, they followed it up very recently with Shouldn't I Be Older, which is playing right now. I love this song. It's a track that's packed with introspection and emotional depth. I mean, this is totally my vibe. These singles are just a taste of what's to come. The band's full album, due out in early 2025, is being mixed and produced by Jonathan Jetter of Right Angle Recording and mastered by Nomograph Mastering, known for their work with Sabrina Carpenter, Taylor Swift, and St. Vincent. So, right now, stream Shouldn't I Be Older and Tears in Brooklyn on your favorite platform and dive into this sound that everyone is soon going to be talking about. That I know for a fact. Listen to Joy and the Wildfire. Check them out.
Friends, have any of you been thinking about exploring a voiceover career? Are you in the midst of your voiceover career, but wanting to either sharpen your materials or sharpen your skill set? Well, have I got something for you? And this is not just typical ad. We talk about it often because I have worked with this person. Anna Frankel-Duval, who started Keepin It Reels, is a friend and colleague and honestly my mentor for voiceover. Keepin It Reels is a voiceover coaching and demo reel company founded by Anna, an actor herself who has been working in voiceover for over a decade. And her work includes national, international, and online commercials for brands including 23andMe, Slack, Palo Alto, Networks, Abbott Medical, Dexcom, and ClearPay, audio description and dubbing for Netflix, including an Oscar-nominated film, industrials, and the narration of a series of children's books. And Keepin It Reels offers tiered pricing for reels to accommodate different budgets. They also have one-off coaching, reel assembly, and build-a-booth options are also available. And Anna has helped me so much, really. I've long been talking about getting into voiceover because I even have voiceover reps, but I've been really putting the time and energy, and Anna helped me focus in. Really, and gave me so much advice on my own reel, built my reel for me, and is coaching me to this day. More information can be found at www.keepinitreelsvo.com, and that's keepin without a G, by the way. So www.keepin, Keepin it reels, REELSVO.com. As a Creative Risk listener, you can get 10% off voiceover reels by emailing Anna at keepinitreelsvo.com and mentioning Creative Risk. Our next guests, yes, I mean plural, are my friends Blyvoth and Palm Kosh. Although, LOL, I literally did not know that's how you said his last name. I texted him a few days ago and I was like, wait, is it like Coke or Coach? I've never said it. Kosh. Palm Kosh. Both wonderful performers. I take kind of low-key credit, as you'll hear, for them being together, which is so not true. We both just sort of, the three of us all met in DC. And they've been married for several years, already have a kid, their doggy Karen, but were generous enough to talk a bit about the considerations of what it means to be pre-child, so to speak, actively working, and the questions they ask themselves are the things they have in place to make it possible. Palm is an actor whose stage credits include The Band's Visit. I got to see him do that. So good. On Broadway, as well as a ton of regional theaters around the country, including the Denver Center, La Jolla Playhouse, and Shakespeare Theater. On camera, he can be seen in We Crashed, Law and Order, and the upcoming feature Daddy, which is coming out in 2025. And he's currently in the world premiere musical adaptation of Safety Not Guaranteed here at BAM in New York, written by the amazing Nick Blameyer, who's also been on the podcast. And his wife, Bly, whose recent credits include performing in the world premiere of Here We Are, the final Stephen Sondheim musical. That was a trip, loved it. And was the lead of the country musical May We All at TPAC in Nashville. She was on the first national tour of Jagged Little Pill and The Band's Visit. Other New York credits include working at Atlantic Theater Company, Primary Stages, Boomerang Theater Company, Nymph and Namped, and some regional work includes, I think she's doing Rent right now, actually, time of this recording at least, playing Maureen, Bright Star, Big River, working at Lyric Theater of Oklahoma, Totem Pole Playhouse, Paper Mill Playhouse, and Ford's Theater. And she trained at the Boston Conservatory. Excited to share this chat with them. Super additive to those who are simply considering what it would mean to have a kid but haven't quite gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Also, I don't really take credit for you guys being together. But I just want to say,
Yeah, Rachel Zampelli takes credit for us being
Sure
together.
does.
I know, but I think because I knew you both independent of one another. Bly, right away when I moved to DC, we met, or thereabouts, because
Right.
you even reminded me we did that Fringe show together, which
We
I,
sure did in that
which-
hot room.
literal garage. It was like a garage.
Was it at the back of the passenger?
It was across the street.
Okay.
LOL. That's right, Pom. So you know what? You know the reason why I got to DC is because I directed Hedwig in that space.
Okay.
Before it was the passenger, when it was truly the garage,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it was a amazing venue. But no, it was nearby.
Yeah.
And then Pom and I met. The first experience I have of Pom was Henry V, I believe. But
No,
Pom,
I took voice lessons from you.
Exactly.
Because
What
Gus
I was-
recommended you. Yeah.
What I was going to say was I have a disastrous memory, so this could be very untrue.
Okay.
But I specifically have a mental picture of you in the rafters of the Folger doing
That
a
did
scene.
happen. That show was amazing.
Yes, it was. Was that Robert Richmond who ripped R.I.P.?
Yeah, I just went
Yeah.
to his little memorial at Classic Stage. It was sweet.
You know, I almost went as well because I did 12th night with him at Folger.
Oh, I didn't know. And that was
Yeah.
right after. Oh no, I remember because I saw that because Rich Willis was in that.
Oh my God, the amazing Richard was. Yeah, it was basically a glorified piano player. He slowly.
Yes,
cut
I
out
remember
all my
that.
parts.
I remember
Yeah,
that. Yes.
Yeah. We had fights about that, but that's okay. I thought he was amazing, and I thought Rich Willis as Malvolio was amazing too.
Yeah, he was great.
So I give that random context because, and taking credit for you guys, me and Rachel Zambelli, we can both share the credit. Because we've known each other for a while, and what's funny is I've accepted it now, and not that I ever had a problem with this magic duo because this magic duo is right. But I remember in the beginning I was a little like it was like two different worlds in my mind for some reason colliding.
What
But how
world
many
was
years-
I?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think Palm actually, in a very basic sense, I sort of, because when we first met, you are such a great musician, literally, and have such a great natural instrument too. But specifically, musical theater was not like it was
Correct.
not like your world.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe a little bit, and it's also ironic because Bly is such a good fucking actor. You know what I mean? So good. And yet I think my associations, even in DC, was like those different worlds.
Yeah.
Right. I was like
Actor and
Shakespeare
MC.
world. She was like musical
And they
theater
are very
world, yeah.
separate in DC too. Like
They are
they're
very
separate everywhere, but they're very separate in DC.
They're separate here too. I mean, I only did, straight theater until Band's Visit, and now I can only get seen for musicals. So it's like, how fucking ironic is that?
Well, and I don't. That's funny. I never thought about this, but I would actually argue the three of us are an interesting amalgamation because I similarly don't really identify as a musical theater artist, but hey, that's where most of my work is, and I think the three of us are interesting, like crossover folks in random areas.
Yeah.
But that was sort of, how I, in a basic sense, sort of thought. And also, it makes so much sense to me now, but like, you're both such strong personalities and fighters and lovers in the best sense that like it either is going to be perfect or it's going to be oil and water.
Right.
Well, it can be both.
Exactly. That's true. That's a relationship. Because how long have you guys been together now for?
It'll be we'll have been together 11 years in December.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
married for 6.
We're all gonna die.
Married for 6, but together for 11.
Yeah.
Oh shit. That's
That's
that. You guys keep talking. I have to give the dog her Keppra. Hold on.
Okay.
He does.
Okay.
The dog is on. The dog is epileptic, right?
I know that Karen has had her ups and downs. I do know this.
She has had her ups and downs. She
And
has.
And I feel bad because I know that it's been like a journey, and I know she's your literal child. Speaking of starting a
Speaking of
family.
children, yes, this is the beginning. I'm not joking, Joshua, when I say this. When I had to get her registered as a service animal so we could take her on tour for the band's visit, they, legally they can't ask why, but you have to put something down on the website. So I put, she's my service animal for my seizures. And then 3 years later, that fucking dog had seizures. Like, I feel like I accidentally willed it into existence.
Well, okay. Well, actually, this is actually. I'm glad that Karen interrupted us because. Also, LOL. You asked me if your microphone's good at Palm, and like
You're hearing
like,
everything.
literally everything. When
Correct.
when you turned your head the slightest degree, it was like a little off, and then you're like 100 feet away, and like you could hear Karen breathing. But all joking aside, I know what Karen, your dog, has meant to you both over these years, and truly, I know that like specifically Blythe talks about her as like a literal daughter. So I guess my macro question is if you both have had a conversation about starting a family, and if you came to a consensus, and no joke, how that relates to Karen, if at all.
Great.
Well, yes, we definitely want one kid. Everybody is like, "Oh, well, I feel bad because the kid won't have a sibling." And I'm like, "Yeah, or the kid can learn how to talk to adults." Like,
Right.
and yeah, they won't be a good sharer, but we're heading towards late stage capitalism, so everybody's got to, scrounge for resources. They'll be better set up. Like the sharers
That's
are
not a
going to
good
die.
sharer either. It's fine.
I'm not a good sharer either. It's fine. I do a great share impression, but I'm not a good sharer. Yeah, we want one kid. We very much want one kid. There's no question about it. We want one kid soon. I think we would have maybe liked to have already had one.
Yeah.
The dog, we definitely didn't get Karen as like it wasn't like let's learn how to share. It was like we just wanted a dog.
Well, no, the way that went is Pom said if the band's visit was nominated for Tonys, we could get a dog. That was how that went.
Got
And
it.
so then that happened. We got the dog the week of the Tony Awards. And and then we decided after getting the dog and after the show won a bunch of awards that David Cromer would be her godfather, so we could guarantee that if we died, somebody with some money and clout would take care of our dog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Karen is definitely would we be a little less obsessed with the dog if we had a human child? Probably. But I don't think there's been any intention, like it wasn't like a calculated, like let's get Karen as a trial run for a kid. It was just
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
But now
and I don't know,
please go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you feel this, Joshua. I'm calling you Joshua today. It feels right.
I like that.
Thank you. I don't know if you feel this, but like I feel, and I know Pom and I have talked about this, like I feel 2 years younger because of the pandemic. Like I feel like we all lost 2 years. So when I go to tell people how old I am, I like bulk, not because I care about age, but because I'm confused about what time is. And
Sure.
like I think as an actor and as a woman and just as an artist, like that all kind of culminates into this world of wanting to have a child because it didn't make sense to have a kid or to try for a kid for us during the pandemic. I was like, yeah, I'm bored, but I'm not so bored that I'm bringing life into the world. That's just me. But love and light, mazel to whomever did that. I feel like for us, that was like a time we doubled down on the dog, in my opinion, because it was like, well, we had the time and it's like, yeah, she is my daughter. Like, what is my purpose? My purpose right now, void of work or the ability to like move freely around, and travel, is to take care of this animal. And also like to get like real deep about it, like there were periods of time where we stayed the whole time in New York. And there were periods of time where like the only way we got out of the house was because of that dog. So yes, she like was already my daughter, but she really became my purpose during that time. And I only say the thing about feeling 2 years younger because like I do think about how if the world had continued to exist and I had like maybe checked some more boxes off of my like career aspiration to-do list, like I think we might have a kid right now. But for us and for me, I will not speak for Pom, it made the most sense to kind of keep on keeping on in different arenas of our lives so that we could get to this stage. But like I don't ever think about like being old until I go, oh shit, like everybody else has a kid. You know what I mean?
Well, that was one question I had for you, Bly, was more specifically about expectations for women.
Mm.
And I guess, do you feel like the expectations for women in the industry in particular add any complexity to the conversation about starting a family in terms of appearance, perceptions about age, etc.? Like, does that weigh in?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it definitely does. again, a chronic overshare over here. Like, I've been getting Botox since I was 27. So I have no doubt in my mind I can pickle my face and my body to whatever stage I want it to stay in if I wanted to. But I do feel, when I consider the amount of time I will have to take off by virtue of being the partner that carries the child, it is wildly disheartening. I mean, I have friends who are actors who are in Broadway shows right now who are working consistently, and the business is not set up to support women who have had children and who are caregivers at all. And I think there's like some really good work being done. Like Rachel Spencer Hewitt at PAL is huge in this arena. I work for Broadway Babysitters. I work in their marketing department, and we try all the time in partnership with PAL to create and kind of facilitate, childcare matinees so that artist parents specifically, can go still see theater and be participants in that community, but not going like rent poor in the process of paying for a babysitter while also the price of a ticket on top of it. So there's like work being done, but then I still talk to my mom friends who are in shows, and they're like, it sucks. I mean, it is very hard. Not to mention the fact that, like, if you are also married to another artist, and God forbid both of you are working at the same time, which used to be like the dream, is now like, okay, one of our incomes almost exclusively goes to childcare, because the amount of time that we are out of the house, whether it's understudy rehearsals, put-ins, tech, even just like evening shows, like that adds up. I mean, I think the going rate right now for a babysitter in New York City is anywhere between $25 and $30 an hour. So if you think about how much time you're spending outside of the house, plus, I have friends with 2 kids, that amount goes up because that hourly goes up. You end up looking at your paycheck and what you already give out to taxes and agent fees and manager fees, and then what ends up going into childcare. Like, you're lucky if you break even. And that's kind of, not only is it disheartening, but there doesn't seem to be any fix to it, either within our community, like through the Actors Fund, or just like from the city at all too. I mean, New York is different because we have 3K, which is, I don't know if you're aware or have heard about it, but it's like by the age of 3, you get free childcare completely covered by the city of New York. It might be the state. So that's huge, because think about, in other parts of the country, it's like you have to wait until pre-K or kindergarten to get the public education. So here it's a little bit better, but that's still 3 years until, 3 years of paying out of pocket for some version of childcare. And that's a best case scenario, right? Because like the other alternative is like, okay, I have a kid and I actually can't afford to pay out of pocket for childcare. So one of us is going to have to make a sacrifice to like stay at home, or to work a job where we can, stay at home, because it's just not financially feasible.
Yeah. And Pom, you kept saying when you were first talking a few minutes, you continue to underline 1 kid. So what is where is that stemming from? That was a specific.
It's stemming from the look on people's faces as they walk down the sidewalk in New York City wrangling 2 children. Why? Why? So the kid will have a friend? What? No.
1 is enough.
Now, here's the problem. What if the one
like
kid sucks?
Carrying the one child too. Like, I love that. But he's
Right,
like,
you interrupted my joke. You interrupted my joke to make one of your own jokes. You just spoke. Let me make my joke.
Oh my God.
This is like anytime I start singing in the house, she starts singing too. It's like,
I am a
motherfucker,
little better. I'm a little better. I don't know what to say.
you think you're a lot better.
That's true. That's true. I was trying to be humble because we're recording.
But you want only 1.
Yeah.
And you've agreed upon that.
Yes.
Yep.
So, but let me ask you, because have you had the conversations about the uncertainty and inconsistency that comes along with the industry?
Yes.
Oh,
Has it given you, because if I may, Michael, my partner, and I, we are afraid to get a dog because
Right.
I spend, when I'm not working on Broadway, I spend, as Bly, you're in Georgia. You know, Palm got a gig at home, amazing, but you know those are far and few between. So we spend our lives moving all around. Have what were those conversations for you both in terms of whether or not you're going to do this?
In terms of a kid or a dog?
The kid.
I mean, they're fraught and they have no clear resolution.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think like the thing that drives me nuts is, sorry, can you hear the dog snoring? She's right behind me.
No.
Okay, good.
I
Let
wish
me know
we
if
could.
let me know if you do, and I'll wake her up. Uh, yeah, what drives me nuts is like everyone going like, there's never a good time. Like you'll never have enough money. And it's like, and the people who say that, who are like, whose partner is a white shoe lawyer,
Right.
or who have a trust fund, I'm like, okay, but there's a difference between your never a good time and our never a good time.
For sure.
So that drives me nuts. I mean, Bly and I both have other work that we do outside of theater. Bly runs marketing for Broadway Babysitters. I work for a startup having nothing to do with the arts. Neither of those jobs pay us a living wage, but it is like, it's not all or nothing with acting.
Right.
And I mean, we right now, Bly and I have 4 jobs between the two of us. 4 jobs between the two of us keeps us, because we do not live in an inexpensive neighborhood, and our friends do have money, and we do play Keeping Up with the Joneses. Like 4 jobs keeps us relatively even, maybe a touch in the black. 3 jobs we're bleeding less slowly. 2 jobs we're in trouble.
Yeah.
This is why I hate math.
Yeah.
So this is why I hate math. I'm doubting.
I know. And I mean, to take nothing away from your intelligence, I know very well that Paul likes that game a little bit more.
He does, and I
do when we're
You did
bringing
tell me
in
why.
money. When we're not bringing in money, I still obsess over the math, but it just sends me into a mental tailspin.
Well, and I was going to say, like, you know me very well, so Joshua, that I balk at the idea of planning ahead. So there's, as I've gotten older and being married to Palm in a very positive way, I have changed a lot of that behavior. I think I used to kind of relish in being like a last minute kind of gal. But there are ways where planning ahead and just having more education about finances, savings, any of that, like things that were too adult before, like I'm coming around to the idea that I should know a little. But I do think that is one of the core things about Palm and my relationship, that it kind of works for us in a lot of ways, even though there are a lot of moments, strife, is the yin and yang of the fact that he is an over planner and like, leans more into like the anxiety world of like the numbers and the math and the what ifs, and me being more of the person that's like, we're going to figure it out. It will happen. And yes, it is so annoying when somebody says like, there's never a right time. That's true though. I think that there is validity to it. I don't think there will be a right time for us to have a kid, because there's going to be a million things that come up, like if either Palm or I like got on some sort of procedural TV show, like knowing my fucking luck, it would be me and then I'd get pregnant. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I do think there is truth in the fact that it's like, there is not a right time. I will say though, like, neither of us like come from money. We don't have financial support from either of our sets of parents. But like, dropping hot gossip, like we did win the housing lottery. So we're moving in a couple of weeks to a 2-bedroom that we can afford. And like that kind of luck, I kind of put under the category still of like family support, right?
Well, we can't afford the new apartment, but it's cheaper than most 2 bedrooms in good neighborhoods. But it's still, even affordable things in this city are,
And kind of talking about the keeping up with the Joneses thing. Let me ask you this: Do you and your familial sets? Do you feel like you have a support system between family, friends, and potential childcare that would be there for you if and when you get pregnant?
I think that we have plenty of resources that we could go to in a pinch. But there's a difference between like, hey, we're in some trouble, we need some help, whether that be financial trouble or childcare trouble or whatever. There's a difference between that and the type of help that is over a long term. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
There's a difference between, you know, getting a trust fund and going to your parents for help in an emergency. And there's a difference
Sure.
between calling in a favor from a friend who lives nearby to watch the kid for a few hours and having family that live in the state so that you can have somebody watch the kid while you go out of town. You know what I mean?
I do. Well, this partially why I'm asking too is I won't say who it is, but there's a couple that I know, and both very talented, and the the guy has had a huge moment in his career, so much so that the woman has basically, and they have two kids, has basically needed to step back.
Mhm.
Have you had the conversation about, because this industry is insane. We never know what the hell's going to happen. And you both are doing such unique, exciting things, new projects here and there that have legs, that could go to blank or not, specifically Bly, thinking about that gig you did and that we talked about, the Tennessee gig, and even what you're doing now, Pom. Have you had that conversation about a situation where one potential partner's career would balloon in a way that would make them practically unavailable as much so as the other person?
No, Palm, I'm going to talk because you've been talking a lot. I think I know that we've had this conversation, and I think, as actors, as two actors who are married, and as you well know, like, you have to follow the work. Like, you have to, if you're like riding the wave, like, it is always, we are in agreement with or without a kid. We've always been in the agreement that, like, we're each other's biggest supporters. So if somebody is riding the wave, like, we're going with it. That doesn't mean that there aren't moments of, like, jealousy or frustration or feeling like behind, because I think that just comes with being with another artist and a creative person. But specifically what I've spoken about a lot and what Pam has been very receptive to is the whether there's a wave or not falling into the assumption that he will have more of a wave or I will have more of a wave, or like one will succeed better than the other, like kind of letting it happen naturally and just watching the signs and responding accordingly. Because I think, what I have seen a lot, and I think what we've all seen a lot is, this idea, if two artists are married, that like, if the woman is the one who is tasked with carrying and delivering the child, because that's science, I almost said showbiz, if that's the science of that, then I don't want to fall into the stereotype and the trope that like I will then be very excited and interested in also staying home and raising that kid. Maybe I will, who fucking knows? But I don't want to fall into that, and then the assumption being that like my partner will pick up the slack and get all of the work. I think both of us also have had serious and difficult conversations about the fact that like we are alive and we exist and we feel alive because we get to do this. So the act of one of us giving up, I say that because it's like, a loaded phrase. It just wouldn't work for us. It wouldn't, because it would be the end of that person's happiness, not to be dramatic about it. But like, I think, I speak for myself, Pam loves the math, but I've seen a lot of fucked up kids with money. And I firmly believe money does not actually solve problems. I think often it creates new ones that people think don't exist because they have the money.
Yeah.
And I would rather be married to a happy Palm, and I think rather be married to a happy Bly than have millions of dollars in the bank. That's just us. I'm not saying that works for everybody. I think some people value
Both would be nice.
security in different ways, but for us, the security exists in knowing that both of us are still pursuing the thing that we care the most about.
What scares you for each of you? What scares you most about the prospect of having a child as an artist? And what excites you the most about the idea of having a child as an artist?
I think what scares me the most is loving something more than I love being on stage. I mean, I think that is a complicated and scary thing to. I mean, the idea of like giving birth and also like raising a child with somebody I love as much as Palm, it's exciting, and also it's like devastatingly scary because it will rock my world. I mean, right now my purpose, the thing that like gives me focus and drives me is how much I love being on stage and how purposeful I feel when I am working.
Yeah.
And if that is challenged by the idea of how purposeful I feel as a parent, will I love one less or more? You know, again, in the same arena where people say like, you'll figure it out. People say, no, you having a child, it even, it ups that purpose in your artistry and like in your creative world. And I believe that, but I don't know it yet. So it's scary. And I think the thing I'm most excited about is I think I'm really fucking great. And I think Palm is too. And I think we will have a really fucking great kid. And I think it will be very exciting. And, we're both very adventurous. So like this feels like the great adventure. Now try to top that, Palm.
Not going to try and top that. No, I think, I think our life is extremely stressful as it is. Taking care of an animal, earning enough money to pay the bills, juggling all our different jobs, and then throwing in something that needs literally 24-hour supervision.
Right.
It just seems kind of, it feels impossible. I think one of the exciting things is that like all things that seem impossible and stressful and scary before they start, we have a way of, both humans and especially Bly and I like have a way of very quickly adapting to our new reality. I'm beyond the fact that I'm just so excited. I've always wanted a kid, and I'm so excited to have a kid with Bly. And I think having a kid in New York City will be so cool. Like the type of kids that are in New York, like the way that they learn to interact with their surroundings and culture and art at such a young age. It's just it's a New York child is such a unique brand of child, and I'm so excited for that. And I also just can't imagine living the rest of my life only thinking about myself. That's just exhausting. And there is something so liberating about something being put in front of you, whether it's a person who needs help, an animal, a job that needs to be done. There's something like, something that requires that you completely abandon your selfishness and devote yourself to it, that really actually, that beforehand can seem stressful and impossible and scary, but when you're in it, actually feels like the stuff that makes life worth living.
two big themes that I'm hearing you both talk about that I'm learning about in doing this specific episode that seems to be the magic sauce is a acknowledging and lifting up how important the creative work is, what that, that piece, and specifically being open and aware that there's going to be a need to work together to problem solve in the moment. Like there's going to be a shit ton of unknowns.
Yeah.
But if we're both aware of what the art represents, then when this other all important 24/7, creation comes into the picture, that it's not that that's either are devalued, it's that we have to work as a team to make sure that through communication, through whatever the modes are, that you are able to problem solve and know that you can.
Mm-hmm.
Know that you are both industrious enough and also bring enough to the table collectively, whether it's your spontaneity, Bly and Pum, or your analytical planning mind, or whatever the heck it is, that can work together to not only solve whatever the needs are for the kid, but also then to preserve, again, your creative lives. And again, I'm more just naming that because it's something that is maybe an obvious, but I think sometimes we shouldn't assume and take for granted that that's always there.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
you two have that.
I mean, I think that there's no doubt in either of our minds, because we've already proven it time and time again with every other element of our lives, that when push comes to shove and when there's a problem at hand that needs to be solved, Bly and I figure out how to solve it, and we get it done, and we make it work. I think that the preparation ahead of time dictates what those range of choices are when that decision time comes. Mm-hmm. Right? There's no doubt we'll come to a solution no matter whatever issue arises with a kid. The better set up we are ahead of time, the better those options will be when we have to make a choice. And I think that there are some things that we can control and there's some things we can't. Having a kid means you will eventually need a 2-bedroom apartment. Like Bly and I just won the housing lottery and got a 2-bedroom in a great neighborhood. If that hadn't happened, we would have been compelled to maybe move into a worse apartment in a farther away apartment. Yeah. But we would have done it. You know what I mean? We would have done it, whether, this is a blessing, but, and there's going to be a lot of things like that too. I mean, we will, once the kid is here, there's no question that we will make sure the kid is taken care of. The question is, what can we do ahead of time to mitigate the possibility that taking care of the kid means one of us being unhappy?
I would only say that I think that you need to I think this is what we're both working on, is the redefining of what taking care of looks like. Because obviously basic needs are clearly going to be met, food, shelter, security, support. But I think, I think taking care of sometimes gets this rap of it must be financial. And I'm just going back to what I said before, which is the three of us know some fucked up rich people. Do you know what I mean? I think financial does not mean taking care of. If you live under the auspice that exclusively means monetarily, you're missing out on all the emotional things that are not necessarily as tangible, but that you can give a kid. And I think that's where I get excited about having a kid is, am I going to be able to send my kid to sleepaway camp? Probably not. I grew up with a family where when I asked to go to sleepaway camp, my mom said that was only for kids whose parents were divorced and they felt guilty, So I don't know that there's I hope not to say things like that to my child. But, I think that there are ways to adequately explain to kids in the way that they can receive it that, like, not everybody has the same amount of money. And you know what? I might get to that point and feel like gutted and then make adjustments to the way that I live and the jobs that I take based off of that. That might outweigh, like, going back to, like, my concern, my fear, like, where will my priorities go and what will that look like and how will that change the structure of the decisions that I make, right?
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. I think that's part of the adventure is, like, we are able to give things, I believe, to my core to a kid that are more valuable than, like, sleepaway camp.
We have some friends, Or Schreiber and Bobby Jean Smith, and they're dancers and choreographers, and they're in LA right now, but they have a daughter. And for most of that daughter's life, they've lived a kind of nomadic lifestyle, traveling all around the world. And, both, I think, for whatever reason, like, they haven't always had easy childcare available. Like, that kid has grown up in rehearsal studios with her parents. And she is one of the most magical human beings, kid, adult, anything, like, one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met. And, I grew up with, financially strapped. My mom and I moved a bunch of times. My mom was under a lot of financial stress. And, my reluctance for a long time was, my attitude for a long time, I think in my 20s, was like, well, I'm not going to live through that again from the other side. Like, so I'm not going to have a kid until I'm completely comfortable and stable and blah, blah, blah. But then, like, looking at a kid like Bobby and Oars, like, actually, that kid has turned out magnificently, and I definitely have moved away from my fear of the fear, frankly, is for Bly and I and our own sanity and stress. I don't actually have any fear for the kids' mental health, just because I know that my instincts are correct in terms of doing what's right for something I'm taking care of. And I know that Bly is going to be an incredible mother. And I know that between our friends and how wonderful the city is, like, our kid is going to grow up with a rich sense of self and imagination and all the good things. The fear is just for our own, for our own stress.
Yeah. Well, I mean, objectively, going back to what we were saying at the beginning, because I, again, will take credit for this relationship and this future child. I also totally see and believe exactly what you're saying. You're both such amazing people and artists who are so funny, so intelligent, so self-aware, so giving. Um, um, you're gonna have a really fucking dope kid. It's you know that, and I, as your friend, know that too. It's gonna be the best creation of all. Out of all the creative work, this is gonna be the one. No, but her and I'm really appreciative for you both sharing so openly. What these thought processes are, because for what it is worth, in having conversations with people about even doing this episode, there was a lot of trepidation, because I think it kicks up a lot of things, right? It's not just about money. It's not just about family. It's not just about the interpersonal dynamics. It's so much, because it's about another life and how that changes your life, not just for 18 years, but as my partner's dad always says, when Michael's sister had a niece who I'm absolutely obsessed with, which is also low key why I literally I can't get enough. I tell him, like, spam me with pictures every day. Do not think that I want more now. So I have an obsession with Maddie. But what Jim always says is, the second you have a kid, you never stop worrying about it till the day you die. It becomes an all encompassing adventure. But for two people who are super stoked by the idea of adventure too, and are, as all of the effusive things I just said, my money's on pretty great, pretty great kid coming. So thank you for this, you both.
Can
I
I
really
add
do
one more
appreciate it.
thing? Unless
Yeah,
Bly,
of
you wanted to
course.
say anything?
No, go
please.
ahead.
I just and Bly's heard this spiel before, so you'll see her now zone out. But I think, we've been talking, in a lot of abstractions here, but concretely, uh, and I'm sorry to end this on like a darker tone, but you can edit it however you want. I think that we all three of us, when we got into this career, were told over and over again, don't do it unless you can't imagine doing anything else. And the reason for that is because of how hard it is, not only financially, but mentally, emotionally.
Yes.
And I think that all three of us probably heard that, thought about it, internalized it, and internalized its meaning as much as we could without having yet lived it, and moved forward. And so these struggles that we face as actors, not just in terms of childcare, but all of the struggles that come with being a freelance artist that bounces from job to job, I think we were prepared for them in a lot of ways. What gets me angry is how the end zone keeps moving farther and farther away. And some examples of that are, for instance, our healthcare. If it used to be, you could, if you worked a certain amount of weeks, that through the union, you would get a year's worth of healthcare. Now it's only 6 months, which is shorter than the term of pregnancy for a woman. So if a woman is not on Broadway year round, they can only get 6 months of healthcare. But if they get pregnant, then they can't be on Broadway anymore. Where does their healthcare go? You can't even get 12 months. What makes me angry is, we went into this career under certain financial understandings, like, well, you can write off your agent commissions on your taxes. Trump tax cuts, we no longer get to do that. And so we went into this understanding certain parameters, and those are no longer available to us. And we need it's not the government's job, it's not our union's job, it's not anyone else's job to make our lives comfy as artists. Part of the trade-off for having a fun job is we don't have as much security. But if we want the arts to still be populated by a diverse array of creative people, we can't be stealing the rug out from under their feet constantly. There need to be certain constants, like you will not be run out of town due to rent. You will get to keep your health care for at least as long as you're pregnant. If you're on Broadway and you make $100,000 in a year, a lot of money in the rest of the country, not a lot of money in New York, you're giving $10,000 to your agents. If you're not an S corp, all of a sudden that 10 grand is out the window. In New York City, that is night and day in terms of what you're able to afford. And I think that's the thing, is that our society, especially in America, where we are so profit focused, we have a really casual and kind of scornful relationship to the arts. Our social safety net is so thin that it's just the resources are going to keep getting thinner and thinner. And whatever assumptions that kids graduating college today have about how hard it's going to be for them, it's going to be even harder than that 5 and 10 and 20 years from now. And I don't see that stopping, and it makes me really angry.
Yeah. Listen, these are all important points, not just for society as a whole, but in relation to what we're talking about. These are real considerations that we especially have to consider. I hadn't even really thought about the healthcare piece in relation to starting a family either, because I've long been a huge, grateful advocate for Equity's healthcare.
It's great insurance.
It is great insurance, and when it cost,
$100 a quarter,
exactly $400 a year, amazing. But now that's quite literally tripled, add on a little bit more with dental, and per your point, having to fight for those weeks to then cover your potential family, even though it's good coverage. Because I'm not sure if any of you've fallen off the health insurance at some point. I have, and I remember when you get the notice that says how much it would cost to buy in, and it's literally insane.
Over $1,000 a month. Yeah.
$1,300 a month or something
Right.
like that. But again, per your point about Bly being 6 months into pregnancy, or not specifically Bly, but you get it.
Yeah.
Bly being 6 months into pregnancy or having a kid, well, it's not like you can be like, well, maybe I'll just skip it until November rolls around.
Yeah.
And hope.
Yeah.
Not an option.
Yeah.
Not an option. Heard.
Yeah.
Heard. It actually is making me want to do somewhat of an entirely different episode to some extent. But that's a comment for another time.
Well, we need the 12 months to be restored.
Right.
We need the Tax Parity for Performing Artists Act in Congress to pass, because that would restore some of our basic write-offs. And we need a New York City government that has some interest in keeping its artists in the city, because
Right.
we are the biggest driver of tourism, and yet we are not given any lip service, not even any lip service in a campaign. I mean, our mayor right now, our crook of a mayor, who will hopefully be gone soon, is the only mayoral candidate who didn't put out any sort of plan about arts workers. And when you do get arts workers spoken about in political campaigns, it's usually about, well, how much money can we get to support venues and producers?
Right.
And yet nobody thinks about, like, what is the human capital of this, this economic driver?
Arguably, like us winning the housing lottery
True.
is something that could make a huge difference for artists. Now, I know there are specific housing lotteries for artists alone. What's the building?
Like one, right?
Right. But if you upped that amount, that wouldn't solve a problem, but would be a beginning of a means to an end, right? If there was like subsidized housing for people who made between a certain amount of money and worked within the arts community in New York City. I mean, that would make a huge difference.
You could also have some, I mean, because we're paid on sporadic W-2s, right? So we don't have the benefits that go towards somebody on consistent W-2 income, but we also don't have the tax benefits that go towards somebody on 1099 income, right? Because if you're self-employed all year, you get to write things off. If you're W-2'd all year, you get benefits. But because actors are on sporadic W-2s, you don't get the benefits and you don't get to write anything off.
Exactly.
So it makes you just, and it all is evidence to me of this country's kind of, at best, ambivalence to, and at worst, scorn for the arts.
Yeah. And certainly not understanding, per your point, its impact on the economy, which is kind of ironic. Given it's quite literally there.
Yeah.
I
mean, look, there's plenty of people out there who go into the arts because they have parents that will pay their rent. The question is, do we as consumers and audience members of art want those stages to be exclusively populated by people that don't, that get their rent paid by their parents? Sorry to put it bluntly towards them,
I mean, if New York, I know this is the truth, right? New York City sells more tickets for theater than it does all of the sports teams in the tri-state area combined, right? Like there's the what's the word I'm looking for, Pom? It's the gross of that is more than when for all of the like big games and like the teams in the area. And yet no acknowledgement of that or support in any capacity. But when you think about it too, like the AI of it all and the change that's going to, the way that's going to affect like the TV film industry, like we are still the only industry as live entertainment and live theater that for moving as of right now, AI cannot replace. And yet still not a support system set up for us. Like we are the one that will arguably succeed by virtue of the fact that what we do is live.
Yeah. And there's support for the owners of the theater. And sometimes
producers.
There's supports and there's tax write-off for producers. But the actual human capital involved is not only left out to dry, but gets squeezed more and more and more.
Yeah. No, again, you've given me so many ideas for things I want to explore because these are so many important points that, again, I think are lost sometimes in the considerations of not just starting a family, but again, just what's already working against us more often than not, on top of just the realities of what we think about when it comes to the industry. Thank you both for this. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. New York audience goers, the world premiere play of Tin Church is now being presented by Off the Wall Productions at the Chain Theater on 36th Street. It's written and directed by the true multi-hyphenate, Robin Parrish. I'm a big fan of Robin's, as she really is one of the most talented entrepreneurial creatives that I know. She's a great actor in her own right, but also a tremendous writer and director. And Off the Wall is lucky to have her. This new play, Tin Church, is an unsettling Southern Gothic exploration of generational trauma and the secrets families keep. The dream and waking world collide in this intensely dark comedy where demons come out to play in the low country South. I love it. To be actually 100%, I don't even fully know what Southern Gothic means, but Robin has said that to me several times. And it feels, I don't know, gay. Fantastical in all of the ways to me. I'm not calling it a gay play. I'm just saying us gays might like it. It's running October 23rd through November 23rd at the Chain Theater, and tickets can be purchased at InsideOffTheWall.com. That's InsideOffTheWall.com. And for Creative Risk listeners, you can use code TA24 for 50% off tickets. TA24 for 50% off tickets. October 23rd through November 23rd, Tin Church, world premiere play, Robin Parrish. Go see it. My friends, our next guest, last but certainly not least, is the wonderful Nicholas Greco, who I met probably 7 or so years ago now. We did a play called Stiff together. Great actor. And actually, he was featured in our Patreon episode of True West. We played Saul, whatever that guy's name is, the producer. Great conversation with Nick. Nick is an actor and writer from Southern New Jersey. His credits include Playhouse on Park, where he's currently doing The Shark is Broken, AT&T Performing Arts Center, where he played Murrow in Murrow, the Barra Group Theater, where he did Saul Solomon and Stiff, which is what we met, Bridegroom in Blood Wedding, Davenport Theater, Tom, Men and Women Talking Love and Sex, at 59, the MC in Lovesick at the Flea Theater. List goes on and on, Nick. Dahmer and Casper Hauser. Also, how do I say all these names, Nick? Film television includes Don Q, Guardians of Time, On the End, The Food That Built America, Titans, The Rise of Hollywood. Some video games include Grand Theft Auto, Mech Warrior 5, King Arthur, Knight's Tale, The Operator. It's a rap. He's a graduate of Mason Gross School of the Arts at Rutgers. I loved this conversation with Nick. I love Nick. I just think the world of him. Such a good guy, such a good dad, where he talks about what this means to raise his beautiful daughter alongside his beautiful wife, who's also really wonderful. And again, I've been learning a lot from all these conversations. So without further ado, Nicholas Greco. I think this is a really important topic. The idea of raising and or considering starting a family as an artist, because we know how chaotic and topsy-turvy and inconsistent our lives and careers are. And I think for many people, actually, myself and Michael, my partner, somewhat included, I mean, if we have semi-cursory conversations around it, because it is such a who knows topic. But anyway, before we get to the kids, tell me how The Shark is Broken is going. You are doing this at Playhouse on Park in Connecticut. How is it going?
It's going. I mean, look, I'm just one man out of three in the play, but I think it's going really well. haven't fought with any other actors, which is the first time ever. I haven't fought with
Are
the
you a
director.
fighter?
I mean, I'm an arguer. I'm a notorious
Okay.
arguer.
Okay.
But I think I really lucked out in this situation. I think the director is fantastic. His name is Joe Disher. He runs New Jersey Shakespeare, which I'm sure you've auditioned for him. I feel like everybody has. And actually, in my audition,
Anyway, keep going. Keep going.
in my audition, he was like, "Don't I know you?" I'm like, "Yeah, you didn't cast me like 3 times." Um, but yeah, he's great. The cast is great. We're all uh, very much like our characters, so it's very easy to just go on and just talk and do it. And it's been a lot of fun, which I didn't
Good.
expect.
Complicated play. I think I told you and by what do I mean by complicated? Because the premise is very clear. A retelling of essentially the making of Jaws and all the problems that were going along with the shark, and specifically these 3 different dudes, actors, and their dynamic together in the midst of this process. Clear idea, but I would argue kind of a hard play to really make active. Do you feel
Yeah.
the same?
Yeah, because nothing actually happens. Like it's a lot of waiting. There's a scene where we just play
Literally.
cards. Yeah, there's a
Right.
scene where we just play cards. There's a scene where we just play a coin game, and that's the whole scene. It nothing evolves in the way a play normally evolves. This guy wants this. Maybe he gets it. Maybe he doesn't. He tries again, and he does, or he doesn't. The objectives aren't really as clear as normal plays are. There's not a through line as much as it is vertical action of we're watching 3 people just how time weighs on them. In that I find it to be extremely challenging. And when I read it, it was the one thing that stuck out to me was how do we even approach a show like this where things aren't as clear as, is Willie Loman going to drive the car into whatever, or, it's where there is an end. There is no end here, or rather the audience knows the end.
And by the time this episode comes out, the show will have closed, because this is not coming out until mid-November, I believe. But you're about to start previews, so you don't quite even know how the audience is reacting just yet.
Not yet. We're prepped to hold for laughs, but if we don't get them, we don't get them. That's theater, man.
Of course.
That's how it works.
Of course. Well, if you want to see Nick in a Speedo, go to Playhouse on Park in West Hartford. Although is the actual theater in West Hartford? Yes?
The theater is in West Hartford. It's Playhouse on Park. It runs from October 2nd to October 20th.
Yeah.
And I am indeed in a Speedo. That is very true.
Well, that's why I'll be there every night in the front row, at least with the camera.
Get the camera out.
Well, so this is kind of interesting then, because this is a good place to somewhat start the convo, because I'm guessing you obviously have been away from Megan, and Hayden.
Hayden, yeah.
Is your little girl. So first, just tell us a little bit about Hayden. I just wanted to hear a little bit about your little girl.
Okay, Hayden is 4 years old. She is a very, very confident little girl, very proud, a fantastic singer, better than I ever was. Very playful, very kind, incredibly smart, smarter than both me and my wife, and extremely sensitive, which makes me being away sometimes a little bit difficult.
Talk more about that. How does it manifest itself? Like, how does her sensitivities to that manifest itself?
Well, from my end, a father, of course, I call every day. Like, there's no avoiding me calling her every day. I have to see her. But lately she has been having, little crying fits when she goes into school. She started pre-K 4 this year. So she has been having little mini meltdowns before school starts. But and that was the difficult thing. And before I took this contract, we had a long conversation because this was going to be 6 weeks away. And a few months ago, I went away for almost 4 weeks. So
Texas.
we're getting, yeah, when I did a show in Texas. So we have been having these conversations of what is the healthiest thing to do? How do we approach parenting when it's grossly unfair to Megan, who has a full-time job, and then like, well, you got this, right? So we had a very long conversation of, is this okay? How do we explain this to our daughter? But everyone has kind of adapted to it remarkably well, which I was shocked about. I didn't see coming at all.
Wait, I missed the last part. What you were shocked about? What were you shocked about?
Oh, they were that how well my family adapted to me being gone.
Oh,
for so
okay,
long.
got it. Well, so if you don't mind sharing, what were some of those conversations with Megan about, okay, I just went away for 4 weeks, now I'm going away for 6, and is this the healthiest? What comes up in those conversations?
How well, in our family, I cook. She does Hayden's bath time. So we always compartmentalize our parenting. So it's one person does this while another person's doing this. We both drop her off at school and pick her up from school, unless something comes up. Megan is a photographer, so sometimes I'll take over while she's gone. Sometimes I'll have a job to do, or a voiceover job, or I'll be in the city auditioning, and she has to take over for me. We keep a gigantic calendar up, about the size of the wall, that we put everything on, which really helps. That we can it's insane scheduling, like to the minute. I can go to the gym from exactly this time to exactly this time. She can work out from exactly this time to this time. The bath is exactly from this time to this time. Hayden does dance exactly from this time to this time, and those kinds of things help keeping it as regimented as possible. But the conversation we had was all of that was going to be up in the air. So we've established a very strict schedule of how we live our lives. And then all of a sudden it's going to be, well, only one of us is going to be there. So half of these things are going to go away.
And no joke, like, I'm not, like, all kidding aside from, I don't know if Megan's a good cook or not, but if you do all the cooking, that probably makes Hayden's, not just the structural, her like emotional and resource world different in a lot of ways.
I assume there's a lot of Kraft macaroni and cheese happening at our house right now.
Well, lucky Hayden.
I guess lucky Hayden. She doesn't seem to mind. She did say yesterday, actually, I called her yesterday and she said, Mom is getting better at cooking. So I guess that's a good sign.
So I want to, can we actually go back to Megan? Sorry. Because when I first met you and Megan, I believe Megan was acting then.
Yeah, she still is. She still does commercials. We're both repped by Innovative, so she still auditions. But her full-time job is a full-time lifestyle. Mickey Sherry, yeah.
He's my commercial agent too.
He's what a character. We all love Mickey. Yeah. No, she's her full-time job, I would say now, is a lifestyle photographer. So she helps other families be with their kids and create memories of their families.
So when you started the conversation about getting pregnant, which is such a funny phrase to me, like, we're getting pregnant. It's like very inclusive. No, I like it. It's like the men include themselves as well because, we're going to do this collectively. But when did you have that conversation about, let's have this child?
Yeah. We very much, this was probably 5 years ago where, we had the conversation of, are we in a place to have a kid? She wanted a baby very bad. And I kept saying the same thing. Are we in a place where we can have a child? And it basically became, we will never, there's no human on the history of the planet Earth that ever said, yeah, this is the time. Everybody goes, you know what? I don't know, but it seems like it's something that I want and I need to do. And I am extremely grateful that Megan pushed me to ignore my fears, to, or I guess conquer them, um, and have a baby, because it is terrifying, especially as actors, because you don't know what you're going to do. The conversation went, if somebody gets a job, we will deal with it. If somebody has to be somewhere and the other person can't be somewhere, we will deal with it. And every day we do deal with it. Literally every day, check that calendar, find the time, what we're doing, exactly what we're doing, and deal with it.
It's kind of amazing. I haven't talked or seen Megan in a very long time, probably close to 8 years now. But she's great.
She's the best.
She's lovely, and it's for both of you, you for her and she for you. It's probably not only really wonderful, but kind of a necessity to have a partner who understands what your values are, what your hopes and dreams are in terms of pursuing this, and being willing to say, we will deal with it. Because I imagine there are a lot of people and relationships where one person's like, the child will always be first, and what that means is 9 to 5, no more acting, whatever, d. And it sounds like both of you were on the same. Actually, it's, if anything, it sounds like maybe you could have been a little more in that camp, and Megan was in the camp of, we want to have a kid, but yet we're artists, let's make this work.
Yeah, she was very. I was not as go get 'em as she was. She was very much like, listen, this is what we need. This is what we should do. This is what I want. I think this is what we want. And it's hard. It's hard for anybody, I feel like, in the arts to put themselves. We spend so much time trying to figure out who we are. Right? That's all we do. Is I'm going, who am I, and how would I say this, and what would I feel if this happened to me? We spend so much time thinking about ourselves. We couldn't possibly put our brains aside for a second to think of someone else. That's the scary part. But then as soon as it happens, you go, oh, I can't imagine acting without having a kid. I can't imagine how
that.
Everything I draw on is from my daughter. Every single, there's a moment in The Shark is Broken where my character says, do you have any kids? And he goes, yeah, just one, little girl. And there's a moment that I can, I feel distant from her. It's a micro moment in the play, and the audience will completely miss it. But internally, I can't imagine even saying that line without having Hayden and thinking of Hayden and thinking of my family. I mean, that's what our character deals with. It's brutal, and it's honest, and without her, I mean, it opened, having a baby opened my entire emotional world up entirely.
Well,
Changed
and you're
everything.
so playful. You're so playful and funny. I mean, no bullshit. And I know you're probably, maybe it's hard for you to be objective yourself, or maybe you know this, but I'm sure you're a great dad. I'm sure you are her best playmate.
I think I'm a pretty good dad. Yeah, I think that what years of acting to me is like still being on the playground in elementary school saying I'm this superhero and you're that superhero. And I think that years of doing that has kind of, made me into the dad that I became, which is at the playground, I play every single game with the kids because otherwise I'd be bored. And they love it.
Yeah.
They love it. I can't imagine not doing that.
So speaking of the playground, do you have a community of other artist parents who understand what you're going through, and do you sort of collaborate and converse and talk about it?
That is a great question, because I knew you were going to say something about this. The answer to that is really no, but I have a great community of not artists, but just people that we've met, other parents who step in every single time that we need something done. They are amazing. If you are an actor and you are worried about who's going to watch my kid, go make friends. People do understand. And the hardest thing for me was asking for help. The hardest thing is going like, oh, Hayden's got to be, I have this audition. I'm going to be in the city from 1 to probably 2:30ish. What are we going to do? Who's going to pick her up? We have a line of people who are like, Nick, go, be great. Do your thing.
Wow.
Have a good time. Go have fun.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think that's people will understand is the thing that I feel like actors need to get through their head is that you're not a one-man army. It's a community. The world out there is a community and they will step up. If you need something, people are generally good. They really will step up if you need help. And so we have, of course.
You never, this might be a weird question, but do you ever feel judged? I mean, let me be clear what I mean by that. People who don't understand our lives, our worlds, you leaving for 6 weeks after just leaving for 4, whatever it is, or we know whether it's VO or commercial or TV, whatever it is, these auditions can be literally 24 hours, in advance. And I'm making this up right now. I'm putting this on you because it might not never have happened. But I imagine there's a time when you're supposed to be watching Hayden where you do have to film an audition and maybe you're like, I need someone to, be present with her. Do you ever feel like any other parents who've judged you for being in that position?
I mean, do I feel? Yes. But I mean, I think it's all in my head. I truly don't believe, and that's another really difficult part of being a parent and being in this job is, I call it the boil. Things don't actually happen, but things boil in your brain. And then all of a sudden it erupts and you're like, everyone is saying I'm a bad parent. No, nobody's saying that. Right. But you can't help but think it if you regiment yourself that I always pick up Hayden after school. 2:25, I'm at that door. And then all of a sudden you're not. And parents are going, where's Nick? Yeah, you feel like, oh man, I shouldn't have made this decision. But I think that's on me. I don't think that ever happens. I think that most of the community that I have, most of my friends and my family, they have been incredibly supportive of go. And you don't think it's going to happen. And that was one of the conversations that we had before I took the contract was I'm worried that people are going to think I'm a bad parent. And Megan, I don't want to curse on your podcast, but Megan basically said, F them, fuck them. She said, fuck them, like if they say that, fuck them, man. You got a job to do. You're good at this job. Go do this job. This is what your job is. We made this decision. You made the decision long ago that this is what you wanted to do, and nothing should stand in the way of that. If we can stop any problems from happening, we will. And it's just a hard thing to wrap your head around because it's not something that you predict. When you make the decision to be an actor at 15 years old or whatever it is, when you're like, I think I'll do this, you can't predict that, 30 years from now, I'm going to need somebody to watch that's not even a thought, but things come up and people are generally good. I feel odd, but it's all in my head, man. People have been incredibly great about it.
And it makes sense. I mean, this is personally, I don't even want to get a dog because one of the things that scares me about having a kid, you should see me with my niece, Michael's sister's daughter.
Oh, I bet you're fantastic.
I love her so much. And I literally have I miss her, and I'll text Anna and I'll say like, can I send a picture? Or like, I need like my Maddie fixing. And why do I say this? Because I worry about, I would feel not only so guilty, I would feel like a piece of me is missing. And I spend my life, I'm in North Carolina right now. Like I spend my life away from home. That's what I do now when I'm not, thankfully in a show that's long running in New York, you get it. You're literally doing
Yeah.
it. So that worries me. But let me ask you this final question, even though I could ask you a gajillion more questions. What is your sense of Hayden's understanding of what you do, and how do you communicate with her about it, and how does she communicate with you guys about
Um, when it started, Hayden would watch me on TV and call me Daddy Necktie because she just assumed that every job I had, I wear a necktie because I wear a lot of suits. Um,
it?
she understands. She That's a great question. For a while, she thought I was a magician. I
Yeah.
think she's starting to understand it now. She understands more the voiceover work because she says, "Oh, Daddy's recording, Daddy's doing characters, Daddy's doing a cartoon today." Um, she understands that more than she understands going to do a job. She's never seen me on stage because she's 4, and the shows I do are not. I feel like there hasn't been a show yet where
Yeah. Yeah.
she would be able to sit through it. Um, she she is very supportive. You want to talk about a good kid. When I record, she closes the doors of our pocket doors for our living room just so that no sound could possibly come in. So she is incredibly respectful of our jobs, um, and gives us space. She stays quiet. At the end, she always goes, "How did I do?" And she demands a treat, but she is wonderful, and um, she. I'll tell you a real quick story is that I went home last week. I had 2 days off, so I did go home last week, and I didn't tell her I was coming home, and I went to bed, and when I woke up the next morning, she came out of bed, and I was standing in the kitchen, and she went right to my wife and she said, "Mom, I wished for Daddy to come home, and he came home. It was just like magic." And I immediately was like just
Literally.
weeping in the kitchen, like it was,
Literally. Nothing
So
more you want to hear.
that's exactly like that is something I'll probably think of on my deathbed, and I'll be like, "That's fine. I'm good now." Um,
Yeah.
that's so. I think she does understand that sometimes work takes me away. Um, but she is very good about it, and she little hiccups here and there, but for the most part, I mean, she takes it like a champ, and it's been
What a
great.
what a nice what a nice what a nice story of an artist raising a kid. No, I mean it, because I won't say names, but um there's another family I know that aren't going to be in this episode, but where the dad he works a ton, and my friend, who's his wife and takes care of their kids, you know, is a bit, because he's always gone and she's always alone with them, and it's hard, and I hear, and you're not saying it's easy, Nick, but what I hear you lifting up is, if I may, the beauty of what you and Megan have together, and the support there is, and the trust, and the willing to problem solve and support one another. There's your amazing daughter who clearly is, loves you both so much, and gets your love, and therefore is respectful of, even at this age, of what you're doing, and probably a healthy amount of guilt, quote unquote, that you both might feel, just because you want to be there for her, but you're staying communicative, and you have a system, whether it's routines, the massive wall calendar, or community that's there to support you. And it's really uplifting to me, because I think that there's so many elements of life that is daunting without a kid. Like I'm saying, I'm afraid to get a dog, let alone have a child. But it sounds like there's so much that you have manifested, because you and Megan worked together to make that happen. So huge congrats, man. Huge
Thank you,
congrats.
thank you. I couldn't do. I mean, I'm a third of this equation. The other two really make up for it. I mean,
And well, okay, last question. Are you thinking of having a fourth to the equation?
we that's a great question. I mean, we not we're not for lack of trying. Uh, we'll see what happens in our future. We are currently actively trying.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so yes, that there is a horizon there. I love it. Well,
There's a-
well, well. Thank you so much, Nick. This is great. I really value your perspective.
well, thank you for having me, Joshua. This is a thrill for me.
The second time, kind of.
I know. I know. I get twice. I
You'll-
get twice the you in my life this month.
You're gonna become a third. You're gonna become like a guest host, and then we'll start paying
Oh yeah, I could be like the new Mike.
you. Exactly. Super interesting, folks. I took a lot away from these conversations with these artists. One big theme for me that sort of went throughout all of that was a openness and willingness to really know that problems, quote unquote, will arise, and knowing that you will not have the answers until you're confronted with them, and being okay with that. One part of life that you can't necessarily plan for. You can have contingencies in place, but you're going to have to be open to problem solving in the moment. And kind of part of that is having a partner specifically that is willing to go there and do the same. And I feel like Brooke and Nick and Bly and Palm all similarly have that, or are that for their significant other, and subsequently are able to successfully navigate what it means to raise a family. Honestly, very inspiring, right? Because I think for some of us, honestly, myself a bit included, it sort of feels very impossible, implausible. But I think that they are all such great examples of how that's not true. About how you can be at many stages in a career, whether you're working on Broadway or you're working just regionally or picking gigs up and diversifying, however that might be, and still be able to make it work. And not only that, you can tell, you've often heard me say that artists, in my opinion, are teed up to be some of the best entrepreneurs in the world. And because of our creative ability to problem solve, actually, no bullshit, like that talent alone is a big reason why I think we're able to navigate the business. But the other thing is, they're also fun. I mean, wouldn't you want to be kids of any of the people on this cast today? Just hearing them speak about their love and adoration for their kids or their future kids, aka Bly and Palm. But I want them to be my parents, Cool, funny, creative, challenging. So thank you to all of them, and thank you for listening, and let us know your thoughts on where you're at with the potential of starting a family, or some of your own pros and cons if you are in the midst of doing so. But it's given me a lot of hope. So Michael, sweet Michael, here I come. We're getting pregnant tonight. LOL. Thanks for listening, folks. Oh, I gotta give you my comfort food performance. That's right, my standing up comfort food performance. Actually, I had said this on an earlier episode that I was going to save it for this episode. And it's specifically Todd Haynes' film Safe with Julianne Moore. Really, really, really good, y'all. And I'm sort of giving it to the entire film, although Julianne Moore in particular is really great. It sort of follows, and it feels appropriate to this episode because it sort of follows Julianne, who sort of plays a suburban housewife, right? Who sort of is living this semi-dull life, and then she has this develops this crazy sickness that she believes is like created by the environment around her. So she has to go and like join, even though they never really say this explicitly, like a seemingly cult for other people who are like allergic essentially to their surroundings. And it was just wild. It was a wild film. I can't wait to watch it again. And Julianne Moore's amazing in it. And so that's my comfort food. That's my comfort food performance for this episode of Creative Risk. Thanks for listening.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Creative Risk. If you've enjoyed, please don't forget to like, subscribe here on YouTube, follow our channel, or follow us on your favorite podcast app. A quick review on Apple Podcasts, like we said, would mean the world to us. We read them all, as I said. And if you want to go deeper, join our Patreon community starting at just $5 a month for exclusive content, motivation, and a supportive community. Check out patreon.com/Creative Risk Podcast, and we'll see you next time.